you might be joining us from. Love to hear that. Okay, well, let's kick things off for the sake of time. Lots to get through today, but very happy to host this chat. It's actually our second Chat and Learn of the year. So, starting things off right with wondering how can AI help you innovate and scale in 2026? So, real quick, just want to go through a bit of housekeeping. You'll see a lot of scary legalese here on this slide, but just to basically sum it up, it just says don't be a jerk. So, if you have any questions about this, you can DM me in the chat as well. Lastly, we'd love for you to participate, so feel free to turn your camera on. No need to be Instagram perfect at all. We would love to see your faces, but if you are still eating breakfast, eating your lunchtime sandwich, no problem. Feel free to keep your camera off as well. If there's anything that you missed, don't worry. You don't even need to take notes if you don't want, because we will be sending you a recording of this conversation in the next couple of days. So if there's anything you need to miss or if you need to drop off early, don't worry, that recording will be landing in your inbox. And finally, we do want to hear from you. So if you have questions for Hunter and Arcui today, or if you also want to just network with your fellow attendees, feel free to drop those questions into the chat, drop your LinkedIn URLs into the chat. If there's anything you want to ask anonymously, you can always message me as well. If you are a member of SHRM, the Society of Human Resources Management, your SHRM code for today is 25-ADD72. I will also put that into the chat in just a moment. Feel free to also take a screenshot of this as well. If you're not a member of SHRM, you can just ignore this as well. I always get a question, what the heck is SHRM? Well, don't worry about it. If you're not a member, ignore this part. And just want to tell you a bit about who Power to Fly is if this is your first time with us. If it's not your first time, welcome back. Well, Power to Fly helps organizations attract top talent and retain engaged employees with solutions that simplify recruitment, enhance employee satisfaction, and drive long-term business success. We have about 200 million professionals across our networks worldwide. We're a 100% woman-led company backed by Morgan Stanley. So without further ado, I'd love to meet our speakers for today, continuing what we began in 2025 with an ongoing series on AI. We have Hunter Lee Canning, founder of Plum Wheel. Hunter is allergic to corporate jargon and proud of it, and he's really helping companies optimize their AI usage with no BS keynotes, showing B2B teams how to break free of boring professional presentations. And I'm sure we'll hear lots more from him later today. But Plum Wheel is turning conversations into compelling video campaigns that boost engagement 300% for growing companies and enterprises. And also returning to the Power to Fly stage today, we have Arcui Usoara, who is a global brand strategist and board advisor. Arcui is an advisor to founders, funds, and venture firms worldwide. As he said, he's involved in way too many companies to probably even name, with projects across 6 continents, wow, and an impact on 10,000 plus businesses. He specializes in taking companies from the idea stage to 100 million ARR by building brand ecosystems that thrive even in saturation markets. So very excited to hear more from both of them as well later today. But Arcui and Hunter, welcome back to Power to Fly.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Rob. Great to be here.
And before we kind of launch into our questions, is there anything else that you'd like the audience to know about you or your work? Arcui, why don't we start with you?
Well, I'm someone who, as Rob said, I'm always involved in various different industries. And to be honest, I'm not just representing myself, but I'm representing one of my companies, Moss, which is heavily involved in AI innovation, and we were doing this for like 8 years, way before ChatGPT even became public and everything. But if you want to know stuff that's not business related, I'm a huge dog lover and rescuer. So if you hear any dogs barking, it's just them.
My two dogs are both. I can hear them in the other room, and actually, we have a event next week. I know, Arcai, you already reached out to me. A Warrior Canine Connection, which is about how veterans can connect with rescue dogs and therapy dogs as well. So we're big dog lovers here at Power to Fly. But Hunter, and I know you, fellow dog lover, what else would you like to share with our audience today?
My long-haired Chihuahua Francis is judging me from the couch right now. That is definitely top of mind. Gosh, he's terrifying. I love him so much. I feel like when you were saying the SHRM credits, I was like, are those also lucky lotto numbers? Because that
You
sounded like
sure?
a very exciting
If you like
golden.
what today's conversation is, play them. So
But yeah, let's see what else. So yeah, you told about Plum Wheel. I'm very grateful that I've got to be a part of the Power to Fly community for, we were just kind of doing the math the other day, Rob, like 5+ years at this point, where I got to host hundreds of conversations like these and the summits and really got to connect with business leaders across all different sectors. And Arcai and actually have been working pretty close together for the past year now. And so I am a happy client and mentee of Archives in so many ways. He's the real deal, everybody. So I'm very grateful to be here with him on the call.
that is amazing. Thank you both so much. So let's start at the foundation, some fundamentals, and for folks who want to get started in AI. And Arkai, I'll throw this first question to you. So, what realistic high impact ways can teams use AI right now? Not just for efficiency, that's a thing that we hear a lot about with AI, but to really create a space for innovation.
Absolutely. So this is something I work with on a daily basis across different sectors. And the best thing I can advise a lot of individuals to focus on, regardless of whatever sector you're in, is try to dive deeper into what was the problem you're trying to solve with your larger business. And instead of trying to have AI just integrate over there randomly, try to see what were certain glass ceilings you left behind. What were certain things you felt that technology couldn't support you in? Let that be because the two industries or the two tech stacks were completely in different silos, or whatever you were trying to achieve felt like, it would require heavy amounts of innovation. The reason being, good AI doesn't just, add something to you in terms of efficiency, but it wraps around you and helps you get closer to innovation. For example, I'm very deeply involved in pet care, and so there are so many of my companies. One of them is focused on helping veteran dogs who are from Marines or Army related services and are dealing with PTSD. And so instead of just creating another chatbot or providing coaching, we ended up building a AI enabled real time voice chat that would not just be involved with you, but would be able to track parameters, pathological behavior, and all of these things that you'd require experts for. The thing is, all of this technology has been around for years, but they could never really work together. And so, one of the best things AI can do for you is make sure that AI is not working in silos, your systems aren't working in silos, but rather wrapping around everything and making sure things are not just connected, but growing together. So, whatever business you're in, I would love for you to revisit what you're trying to do. Instead of just trying to go into AI, try to focus on what were the problems you were trying to solve and you felt like you had to settle for just solving these things. And now try to see what kind of systems exist that can help pave that way forward. That's honestly one of the best things you can do to get started with AI. And I'm not talking about ChatGPT and all these companies. I'm talking about real LLMs that are out there that are constantly innovating and disrupting this field. And with that, I'd love to hear from Hunter and others as well. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's so important to step back from trying to learn all the AI tools. There's too many tools, but the foundations of AI are all the same, right? Different LLMs, different providers. one's going to be better at this, one's going to be a little better at that. They're all excellent now, right? How quickly we become accustomed to such powerful tools, right? I'll give an example. Over this Christmas, I got to spend some time with my family, right? And I have a 6-year-old niece and a 4-year-old nephew. And they witness their Gen X parents talking to ChatGPT all the time, right? Do this, research that, da 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 da. The kids had never had hand-on experience, right? So I was using an AI tool that makes music, right? And I am a big talk out loud, think out loud type person. So I'll dictate to my computer. And so I was like, hey, what do you want to make a song about? And I got permission from the parents, very important to do, they're children. And I was like, talk to the computer. And they dictated what they wanted the song to be about. We made the song. And then their mind was blown because it was like, I just did that. It's a kid's pop song. They're singing about me. Mind blown. They looked at me like, this is magic. Within 5 minutes, she had notes. It wasn't good enough. Let's fix this. Let's fix that. And I was like, right, how quickly our biases change, right? And the point of this is a 5-year-old knows how to use AI. You don't need to be an expert prompter anymore. Prompting is when you type in a command to AI, right? It's called prompting. Right now, it's just, they were called chatbots for a reason initially. So right now, the best way to get started if you aren't using it already is one, obviously, jump in, experiment. Don't try to learn everything. But two, to Arcui's point, is you want to step back and look at your business's processes first. Because the big thing, the trap, like Arcui was saying, is you want to just kind of automate everything. But as they say in Star Wars, the big fish people, that's a trap. Don't do that. You want to figure out what to AI, but the only way you're going to know how to do that is figuring out what your process is first. And what's even more important is knowing what not to AI, at least not yet.
And his name is Admiral Akbar, if we want to be specific. By the
Come
way,
on, nerds!
Yeah.
Can you tell by the bookshelf behind Rob that he would know
right
that?
Behind me, yes, exactly. Well, I love all that, and I think Hunter, for your point, what I love is I actually have heard hosting so many talks now about AI. People have actually said, "Well, I'm afraid I'm going to break it," and I just love that idea of just dive in. If a 5-year-old is able to kind of play around with it with abandon, then that's great. And I think Arcui, what you said that really resonated with me is this silo aspect, because I think a lot of us, myself included, I'm just kind of using it as a standalone tool right now. I'm not kind of integrating it into other tools that I'm using, and I think that really is kind of the next step that I'm seeing there. So thank you both so much. And Hunter, want to go back to you now because I'd love to also hear what are the most, in your opinion, the most important foundational concepts that people should understand about AI today?
Yeah, great question, Rob. So one of the most important foundational concepts to learn about AI right now and understand is that we're all managers of AI now. So work on your managing skills, because in my mind, I have different teammates. I have my research and development team. I have my coder team. They're AI agents. They're AI tools. And they don't always have to be connected. I can be the human in the loop, which is another way of saying sign off, make sure things are okay, right? I can be the glue for some things. And to understand the different departments, if you start to get them out of tools and think about them as teammates, it's a subtle shift that I have found extremely helpful in what I do and how I help other people either understand this or implement this stuff. Hands down, most important thing.
And I'd love just a random question for you, just because I feel like so many people address these differently. Because you described AI as a teammate. Is there a specific way that you talk to? Are you polite? Do you treat it as a machine? And does that have any kind of actual impact, not on necessarily what's being generated, but even on your mindset as that being a collaborator?
I love that. So I do say please and thank you. I think manners are appropriate everywhere. Um, and there was this tweet from Sam Altman, or someone made this tweet like, I don't know, last year or something. Sam Altman's the CEO of ChatGPT, OpenAI. And someone wrote this tweet, just some person was like, because every time you write an input, it costs them money, right? It's called compute, right? It's because it's like sending something over there, it's coming back to you. All of that little thing, every single word, which they also say is tokens, it's a little jargon for you, those things cost money, every single letter, right? So someone tweeted, I can't even fathom the amount of millions, if not billions of dollars that OpenAI has spent on people typing please and thank you. And Sam Altman saw this tweet, and his one-line response was, you never know. You never
Yes,
know.
As April said in the chat, the golden rule for when the machines turn on us, let us be nice to them now.
Exactly, exactly. But that is whether some people say it helps the output or whatever. I don't know that that's entirely true. It's a little bit of a mystery, but what I know it does help is the way I talk to them and the way I communicate them, and it continually gets me out of the headspace of, oh, I have to talk to this thing the right way. Yeah, there's tricks, there's ways to improve the way you get outputs from the machines, right, from the AIs. But when I just start free associating and talking and not worrying about typos or whatever, and I'm just talking to it like a teammate, it keeps me in flow. It keeps me going, right? And the biggest blocker with AI is ourselves. Usually,
Mhm.
where we get in our own way. You said earlier, someone said, and we hear this a lot, I'm afraid I'm going to break it, right? My mother is 78 years old, God bless her. Looks amazing, acts amazing, new lease on life, sharp as a tack. And she is now a Chat GBT Pro, my friends. She even gave it a name. Its name is Pants, as in Smarty Pants. And her first feeling was, I don't want to break it, right? And I started working with her because she does it with work a little bit and stuff like that. And I was like, just talk to it, just talk to it, just talk to it. Now she's like, I love Pants. He's so smart and helps me with all these things. And if she can do it, and if my 6-year-old niece can do it, y'all,
The
you're
two
good. You're
ends
good.
of
A
the
good
spectrum.
demographic range. Yeah.
That's
Yes,
right.
exactly. Well, and we got a great other tool recommendation in the chat. Bloomstack there, building teams. Thank you. If you have any other tools that you guys are using, feel free to share those. And Arcui, before I move on to the next question, what any thoughts from you? Any foundational concepts that you think people should really understand about AI right now?
Honestly, I would concur very deeply with what Hunter said because we do this a lot when we are working together as well. But it's really about knowing and treating your AI as you'd want it to be in terms of a team member. You can't be very vague about it. You can't just be like, do this, do that. You need to be able to direct it because if you're able to orchestrate it very well, it helps you, reach a lot of goals faster, but also it understands how you like to work. And this is very important for people like me because I have very bad dyslexia and I also have very bad ADHD. So I have agents running
This is why we get
constantly.
along, Archive. This is why we get along. We both share
Yes.
these things.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I have AI agents integrated into, Alexa's, like, not Alexa, but, the smart surround systems and everything. And so I just enter my room and I'm like, hey, Mia. So one of my agents is called Mia. I'm like, I want you to scrutinize some of my thesis. And it's trained so that it doesn't just take my word for it, but rather works with me, debates with me. And I require that in a team member. So Mia is heavily trained in that. But for that to occur, it needed to know how it had to behave, what I expect. And so the more detailed you can be, the more you converse with them, the better it is to get these outputs.
Yeah, interestingly, I just had a call actually with someone. Hopefully, we're going to do an upcoming event with them from who's neurodivergent and is from a neurodiversity organization. They said sometimes they have a hard time even deciding what to eat, and they'll take a picture of their refrigerator and say like, "What should I eat?" I've never heard that, but like having AI kind of say that, and obviously I'm assuming they're building agents and kind of knowing, maybe tracking that kind of information over a long time. But we're talking a lot about business work today, but definitely moves and expands into people's personal lives there as well. And yeah, go ahead, Hunter, were you going
Oh
to
wow,
say
you're
something?
so good at reading my body. You know me too well. We go way back. Uh, um, to Archive's point, and what this topic is, very specific tasks, right? You want to give a team member, just like you would give an intern or a high level executive, you want to give your AI a very specific task or specific scope of work so that it doesn't try to build you the Taj Mahal and throw in everything
Mm-hmm.
other than the kitchen sink, right? They're getting better at this on their own, but it's still really important to give those specific directions so that you are getting exactly what you are expecting a human would do, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, the more you do that, and then if you start to get into the technical aspects where you have agents, which are basically just another way of describing an agent, is an AI that makes some autonomous choices on its own and is either trained or delegated a specific task, right? So you can do this on your own, but then when you start designing these larger systems, potentially in your business, or you're working with these systems that have been designed for your business, you're not all necessarily going to build these things, right? You're just, maybe some of you are tech people, some maybe you people are in HR, maybe you're a C-suite getting a better understanding of stuff. It's all good, right? So we want to understand the basic hierarchy of how all these things work and how the nuts and bolts are, but you don't need to be a coder to use any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah, no, that's always a good reminder. And next question, kind of getting a bit more into the nitty gritty here. This was pre submitted by a registrant. Maybe you're on the line right now or listening to this recording. I love this question. So, Arcui, I want to throw this to you. This person was asking, how should an organization approach providing AI tool subscriptions to a workforce of roughly 200 plus employees? And I'd also throw in there too, how can an organization maybe decide what tool they want, because there's so many tools and we're hearing more about them every day, but a lot of companies have a finite budget, right? So they might not be able to do subscriptions to all of them, maybe just one. So how can those organizations find the right tool, and then how do you approach subscriptions to a workforce of maybe 200 plus for like an enterprise or mid-market company?
No, absolutely. So there are two things here. Firstly, in terms of, how do you go about picking the right tools? And the best way you can go about this is segment your team members and the AI tools they require in three categories. There are high caliber AI tools that are specifically being trained. Their data sets are made so that they can help you in these use cases. For example, I work a lot in a couple of medtech companies, and we use AIs that have been trained on radiological information, these companies. And so the doctors specifically work with those AIs. Intern is not going to touch them. Someone in marketing is never going to get involved with them. But these are high caliber AI systems that have been set up. Then there are general use AI systems that are made for team members who may not be specifically at senior levels or do not have larger executive responsibilities, but are required to work with the larger team members as well as to collaborate and to be able to communicate things. And then we have a mediating agents. This can be any good AI that has sequential thinking that you can buy at large so that they can kind of act as an integrated assistant, but also help communicate and prevent the thing I was talking about, which is silos. Because you might have a 200 plus team member, but it doesn't mean that all 200 of them are, let's say, engineers or marketers. They're going to be spread thin. So you can have high caliber AI tools that are specifically made for the accounting, legal team, the marketing, and the design teams. Then you have mediating tools that are made for the larger team that everyone can subscribe to. These are very low in cost. And then there are integration AI tools that can help the team members work together and understand what the main team members were doing, as well as make sure they can communicate it to the general AIs and make it seamless. Now, there was a part over here for how can you reduce cost over here. the best thing you can do, and I know right now RAMs are completely off the market or highly expensive, you can't find them, but create your own server spaces and then try using local and open source AI tools. This has been something that has helped so many of our companies. We have literally a company that I'm an advisor at that does 10 million. It's a 10 million ARR. It's a content creation company. And we don't even pay anything for AI anymore, and we don't even have them on like higher servers. They're on local CPUs. They created a regular server farm for themselves, and everything about the company is done over there. We have reduced API costs, everything, because we created our own systems. But again, this depends on, have you felt that, discovered that familiarity? Have you refined it? Do you know that this system can deliver more to you than a new update into a regular software or an AI LLM that is getting just a new version of it? Are you going to keep chasing a new high, or do you have something built up that can really support you and can grow with you? But yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard more and more investment, or more and more people are gravitating towards the open source. I believe that OpenAI also just started like their own open source as well to compete with some of the other models out there.
Well, OpenAI was open source for a while. It was, that's the open in it, but yes. So now it's for profit, and they still do launch open models from time to time. But there are some really amazing models out there from across the globe that have been able to go on par and beyond what these companies offer and everything. Like, we didn't even use ChatGPT properly until 4 something came out, and we were like, you know what, it makes sense to try this out. Like platforms like Mistral, they're a French company, and they have made some of the best sequential thinking, voiced AIs, and so many other solutions out there that are completely open source and for a fraction of the price. And you can even run them locally if you don't want to even go for their APIs and everything.
Yeah. And to jump on that, there are open source models of like things that are comparable to OpenAI, ChatGPT. And then there's also open source tools that Arcui mentioned there. So that would be involved of what you would say like building your own tech stack, right? And there's ways to do that. So you're not just outsourcing different tools for different subscriptions. So you can build, the foundations are already built, and then you can customize them. And then you want to get really fancy, like Arcui was mentioning with his company that he's an advisor on. You can have your open stack and your open LLM, the AI, and then you're self-hosting it, right? And that is also becoming more and more popular, as you were saying, Rob, around security, right? Because for your companies, you don't necessarily want to be calling these outside tools if you have sensitive information, whether it needs to be, HIPAA compliant or it's just trade secrets. More and more companies at that scale of 200 plus are going to want to have that
Yeah.
stuff internally. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the rule of thumb that we've discussed on many of these events is if you have a piece of information that you don't want to put out there in the world, do not put it in AI, even if you think it's within maybe a secure environment right now. I mean, that's why, as you said, a lot of people are kind of moving into this model, but definitely being still cautious about that and kind of going back even to the fundamentals about setting up a governance at your company. What are the rules? What can you put into AI? And I think before you start, especially if you're getting to the point where you have 200 employees with a subscription, you definitely won't need kind of that bill of rights of AI that you're kind of setting up of like, okay, this is what's allowed, this is what we're using there. So, and Hunter, you were mentioning kind of all these different tools. So, is there an AI management tool or an orchestration tool that monitors, evaluates, and optimizes the performance of multiple AI applications? And that could mean recommending or replacing the tools as better options might emerge.
Yeah, there's always going to be different startups that fine tune different tech stacks and different tools for very specific use cases. And at any moment, those might get swallowed up by one of the bigger players, right? You see OpenAI every time they launch a new feature, you see on Twitter like 100 AI startups died today, because there's always this rapid development, right? So it's important to be tool agnostic to a place that you, to an extent that you can be, of understanding the market. There are a few tools that I will just switch, and it doesn't break my flow at all. It doesn't break my systems. It doesn't break what I'm working on, because there are different components that play nice together and serve similar things. So I think it's more important than looking at like exactly which tools to use, as an understanding of what are the tools' purpose, right? And so you were asking specifically about monitoring of tools that watch tools, right? Is what you're asking. What are the tools that watch the tools that can help you do governance? I'm going to throw a little jargon out there. It's called telemetry, which is also, if you're a Star Trek fan, they say telemetry. You can scratch off your bingo card every time they say telemetry on Star Trek. But what that basically is this monitoring process, right? So there's definitely several top players of tools that do this. But if you start to understand what telemetry is, also known as open telemetry, also abbreviated to OTEL, these are kind of the words you can go and look around. What those do is, let's say, for instance, like in my two companies, which is Plumwheel, which is our video marketing company, and Ragnos, which helps develop these types of systems for other companies. We will monitor, let's say we're using OpenAI ChatGPT for one thing, we're using the French company that was mentioned, Mistral for another thing, we're using Google Gemini for another thing. We have a telemetry stack that we host locally, and then it just monitors all of these things and goes, oh, this one costs this much per thing, and this one costs that much, but the output about the same, right? And you're like, cool, I'll take the one that costs less, please. And you can start to monitor those things. The other thing you hear a lot about potentially, if you haven't already, you're going to hear a lot more about it this year as well. It's called evals, right? It's exactly what it sounds like, evaluations. And the way you get those working is you can't just be like, was that good, right? Well, what was good? Was it good because, what are your standards of good, right? For your company's processes, systems. You have to define all that stuff. And that's where humans are very, very important, because a lot of times these things aren't written down anywhere, unfortunately. There's a lot of knowledge that just lives verbally within a company, and then it's stored in people's heads. As the company grows, these processes are often written down and documented, also called SOPs, standard operating procedures. You have that. If you have those already made, this is golden, right? So this is where AI can help you make AI systems that monitor other AI systems, right? And you got this fun little circle, right? So you get all those things, you give it to the AI, you're like, great, let's distill this down into what the core processes are for this system. What are the standards? What are the goes or the no-goes? Great. Now let's make an eval, an evaluation, so that every time we call this tool or this agent, is it passing all of these checks? Great. Let's make a scorecard, right? A lot of companies have been using scorecards for, this is not a new business model, right? Scorecard. How we do on this? How we do on this? How we do on this? Great. Once you've defined all these things, for instance, with marketing content, did it follow the brand voice guidelines? What are the brand voice guidelines? I got about an 80 out of 10 because of X, Y, and Z. How much did it cost? What's our budget? Is it above, below, or right on score? Right? So you can see how this happens, right? All of this stuff compounds, and then you're able to track it. So that is how the systems can improve the systems. And what's super involved, going to be a broken record here, friends, human in the loop. If you start seeing that phrase, human, H-I-T-L, right? Dyslexia. If you see HITL flying around, you're like, what the heck is that? It's human in the loop. And that is these checkpoints. Now, the more you do that, the less you'll need to be involved in these granular steps. You're like, cool, we got it. That's a proven system. It's hardened. Let's let it fly for a few weeks, a month, a quarter, whatever. then we can go back in and see, oh, things have changed, right? We need to go in, retune it, and then that's how these systems can improve on top of these systems.
Well, thank you so much to digest there. And I think everyone's going to walk away from this event and recording with the word telemetry. I can't even say it in their head.
Telemetry.
Say 10 times
That's the word of the
faster.
day. Yes, the
That's right.
Scrabble word. If you're playing
Yes.
Scrabble tonight, lots of points
Telemetry.
with that.
Engage. Yes.
Exactly.
That's a John Picard reference, everyone. All the nerds in the house. Which is
And-
next generation Star Trek. I want to make sure everyone
Yes.
understands. If you're going to take one thing away, it's go watch Star Trek.
Yes. Yeah. Star Trek, Star Wars. We had both the stars referenced today. So, and
That's true.
Arcui, I want to throw to you with another question, because one thing that I thought was very interesting is obviously you're very much involved in the world of investment, venture capital, investment decision making, and things like that. And I'd love to see how in your experience has AI been playing a role in there. We might have entrepreneurs on the line. We might have business owners that are looking for investment. So kind of in that venture capital investment decision making world, and I'd even expand that maybe the larger decision making. We even heard, people are using AI to determine what to eat. Like, are you seeing other like fundamental decisions that are now people are
Well,
consulting or even relying on AI to make?
absolutely. There are so many things. So just to clarify, I generally sit on the other side of the table. So if you want to run pitches by me, please do reach out, because unlike, giving you feedback, it's mainly for me to make sure, are you a thesis fit? Are you going in the right direction? So VCs, LPs, and even family offices tend to bring me on as a consultant to help their portfolio companies, but also to help their funds. And so AI has played a critical role on both sides of the coin. It has helped us not just help companies grow and scale, but when we are evaluating, like, okay, has this company done appropriate research when we're doing due diligence? Is the data room accurate? Like, data rooms are generally what you need to present, what founders need to present in terms of everything that their company is doing, what market they're entering in, what is their total addressable market, how much are they actually looking to acquire or that they can actually service, and there's so many different things. And so I had built one of these agents for one of my companies, where I'm an advisor and everything, called Tammy. And so what Tammy does is it allows VCs to really find the TAM, and so that's why it's called Tammy, where it doesn't just, it's not just a simple question like, what's the TAM for this market, but it bifurcates and then it looks at the intersection of what is the market they're entering in, what angles are they looking to bring in terms of the services they're looking to provide, what does the market look like in terms of the users, how much have they moved away or moved towards this sort of decision making. So instead of just relying upon annual reports that we get, we can actually track trends, we can use that to actually see if the market is growing further and so much more. And this can both help us make sure if the founder is bluffing or not, but if we are actually working with the founder, we can help them realize that, hey, you should focus on these sort of decision making, because TAM SAM is not just to tell us that you're in a great market, but it's an indicator for you as well to realize that, oh, these directions make sense. This is actually growing. This is something I should focus on. So these tools have helped us. And then on the other side, LPs, limited partners, or family offices, these are the ones who actually end up funding VCs. If you ever wonder why a VC is saying no to you, it's probably because you're not a thesis fit, not because they don't like you, but if you're not a thesis fit, no matter how great of a company you are, they have to say no, because we have to kind of follow that rule that this is why we have raised our money. It can be a VC that that is saying that we believe that the pet care industry is growing, and if we invest 10 million across 100 companies, we'll be able to get a 100x return in a span of 10 years. So these things then end up becoming principles. So even if you can get 1,000x return, but if you're not a pet care company addressing certain issues, we have to say no. But when it comes to LPs that are looking to work with funds or looking to invest in upcoming general partners who have a thesis, this helps them figure out, does this thesis make sense? What are certain market trends? What are directions that we need to create our VCs for? Because even though today we are in an AI talk, AI has been one of the worst investments for a lot of VCs because of the number of wrappers that have come up. So what do LPs do? Because LPs are supposed to get the returns from VC. You think you have to give returns to a VC, or VC has to give returns to an LP? And so the LPs have started realizing that, okay, we need to be more accurate. We can't just go on a whim anymore. But also, what kind of infrastructure, what kind of individuals can we bring in? So we are moving away from just VCs to venture studios, where we're not just investing in you, but we're helping you grow and scale. They bring in talent like me, where we advise you, we help you build up the infrastructure, go to market, but also sometimes they hire me to do the entire branding. Sometimes they hire me to create the overall AI agents and everything else. So VCs have really dived into AI, but it is still a very long road ahead, because a lot of the general partners are still not looking at it from this perspective. And so it's like, the common saying, you can't read the label from inside the jar. So there is a lot of opportunity. But the main thing you should remember is that, as I said at the start of the talk, look at the problems you're facing and see if there's a new perspective that AI can help you with it.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, they might be investing in 100 companies, but only a few of those are going to be around a few years from now, which I kind of all ties back even to what you were just saying, Hunter, in terms of evaluating what these new tools that are arriving and what is replacing other tools as well. So yeah, I mean, I think that's great advice for anyone on the line who's an entrepreneur or also a business owner and looking to get that advancement. And about 20 minutes left, 15 minutes left. So if anyone has any other questions for Arcui and Hunter, please drop them in the chat. Love to address any live questions that you have. But Arcui and Hunter, this is kind of a combo question, definitely for both of you, because you're both very much involved in this. What role are you seeing AI driving the play in terms of content creation and content operations? And then I'd also expand that, maybe Arcai, you can speak about that. And then Hunter, if you can touch on kind of the creativity elements that's beyond that. But, Arcai, to start with you, where are you seeing the role of AI in terms of the automation of content creation, content operations?
Yeah, and I think Hunter can really add to this, because this is, when it comes to the world of content, it's not just about automation, it's also about being creative and being human in the loop, because you can have the best AIs and automate everything and you'll still fail. And you can make the best creatives, but you don't have a strategy. It's going to be one of those things that people are just going to scroll past. But one of the things that we have been doing, and I'll tie this back to the VC conversation. So, one of the VCs I work with, we are helping them manage the accounts for all of their different partners, associates, scouts. And so now what we can't do is create one piece of post and have everybody write it. Everyone will know that, yeah, this VC is just copy pasting, and that's done. But what we can do is help each and every individual become a thought leader in themselves. And I don't know how many of you are aware of RAGs, but we create these RAG automations where we're building our own database. What this essentially does is prevents AIs from hallucinating. Have you ever asked AI for a basic answer and it gave you the dumbest thing you could ever think of, or you couldn't even think about it but gave you that answer? Well, RAG systems help prevent that to a very good extent. And so, what we have been able to see is not just creating automations to help you automate these things, but to replicate and synthesize your essence, but also analyze what the market is looking for. So, I use this platform called Appify, which is a brilliant scraper. Then you can honestly use any all scrapers, but I really believe in competitive analysis, not to replicate or steal from our competitors, but to see what our audience is resonating with, what's aligning with them. Especially when I've worked with new partners who are just exploring the world of content and they do not want to go about writing 10-page articles on LinkedIn or Instagram. So, what we essentially do is capture their essence, capture their leadership. Then we get into these sessions with them where we ask them to speak with us for 90 minutes. Sometimes it's 1 hour. We invite every one of them and we ask them general questions, and then we let them bounce off of each other. And once we have done that, we are able to not just capture the leadership, but also the values they're providing, the market they're addressing. And then once we create these complex automations that is not just tuned on the larger business, but also on the individual parameters as well as what the individual would like to say, when overlapping and aligning with different founders, different individuals, events, as well as, startup team members that they're trying to address so that these funds can be visible to these startups, we are able to not just write a content piece that is aligning or resonating with the other person's content, but we are able to create a sequence where a content posted today will align with a piece of content that comes out 5 days later, but will still feel so much in sync, as well as the next few pieces still feel connected. And even if it's a general partner talking about their thesis, an analyst looking for financial metrics, everything feels connected and appropriate. And so this makes it not just authentic, but also keeps the leadership element very true because it's still fueled by you, but these systems are now working together to help you grow. And we know this is possible because team members love to banter, love to get into conversation, and a good banter is always helpful. I love to banter with my own team members as long as it's done in good faith. And we all know that we're here to brainstorm and grow together. So this is what AI can help you do and just, a more of an implementable perspective on how you can use it for content. But yes.
Yeah, I love that. And Hunter, knowing what you're working on with Plum Wheel and your other efforts, like this sounds like very much connected.
Yeah, 100%. So a continuous theme I'm noticing on the call too is for aligning content creation and systems, you want to break the silos of your company, right? So sales is getting all this valuable stuff when they're on sales calls and they're getting the same questions and they're answering the same questions to team members, right? All the time. Leadership is guiding the brand or the company's values, right? Which are going to be so intrinsic to what type of content you create because you want that to be in alignment. And those two major buckets, and of course, there's so many other team members, right? There's HR, there's the developer team, there's legal, right? There's all of these different teams. And a lot of times, the only time they know what's going on is when they do their team meeting, right? And then so much has happened in between, and there's no way to share everything. And there's a lot of subtleties that are lost, right? Team meetings, they need to be regimented. They need to be on schedule. They need to end on time. There's no way to say, oh, I was on a call with this customer and they said this, and it's like this exact quote, right? That's rare. It happens, but it's rare. It's more of this synthesis, right? It's more of this overview. But those little details are the beautiful nuggets that I find that shine through in content creation because it makes it personable. It makes it real. You're talking about a specific person or an instance. You're not talking in generalized ideas, right? This is where it gets really, really fun and really exciting. I worked with a company, an IT company, and their website looks great. It's polished, it's shiny, and it didn't sound like anybody on the team, right? It sounded like really well-written content, which works until it doesn't. When I got on calls with leadership, they and the rest of the team, I was like, y'all are weird and fun. I don't get that at all in this content. Do you want that to be part of how you show up? Obviously, we're going to keep it professional, but there was a big thing missing from their content, which was their personality and their identities and their personal stories. You know, Maya Angelou said, I'm going to butcher the phrase a little bit, but people aren't going to remember what you said. They're going to remember how you made them feel, right? And that is true and true in our lives and in content. So how are we going to show up and make people feel a certain way if we're using AI and these really advanced systems to get it all out there? Well, let's get specific and real for a second. So when I work with people, everything's recorded with their consent, of course, and then we'll take these transcripts and I'm listening for certain things when I'm on the call with them. And maybe this wonderful personal story that's a metaphor that connects directly to how they work, right? Maybe this person loves to travel. Well, what does that mean about that person? That means they're interested in hearing different points of view. They're interested in a global perspective. They're interested in other people, right? That's not necessarily going to show up when you're talking about how manufacturing needs to upgrade their ops systems. Maybe it won't. If you ask AI to write it out of the gate, it will not. I can not yet. I always have to say not yet with AI. But when you get all of these stories, you can put them together. So you have leadership, you have a head of HR, you have legal, whatever, everybody together. When we start to mine that stuff and we start to take all of those things, this is where AI is really great at distilling it and picking out those moments. But we have to know how to listen for it and direct the AI to pull out those things. And then that's how you can teach what's called a brand voice in marketing, which is how your brand sounds and shows up online. Going back to what we were talking about early in the call, this is training data. This is how we get AI to sound a certain way. And then if we're going to connect the dots once again to ding, 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 scratch your bingo card, telemetry, how are we tracking it, right? So if we're tracking it, we've made these SOPs, standard operating agreement, the procedures, these evals. Is it aligned with the CEO's values? And this is how it should sound when you have a really wonderful quote. It should not sound like this jargon nonsense that sometimes AI will output. Mm-hmm. Yes and no. That's an eval. And then how did we do? Is it aligned with the brand voice? Great. Pass go. Let's write a post about manufacturing and DevOps. But we are bringing in a personal story of understanding. I'm just going to make this up now. They love to travel. They have a worldview. They understand that not every system is going to be the same way, because when we travel the world, we understand that people operate differently, but there's a shared unified experience under all of it. Great. I just explained something in a human way. I connected it to what my business needs to pitch and sell, and I'm speaking directly to my audience that needs a solution. Boom.
And would either of you ever give your clients any kind of advice if they're getting pushback from, say, the general public about using AI for content creation? Because obviously, like, you see it all the time on Instagram where it's like, this is AI, I'm boycotting this company. I mean, I've seen it with movies. Like, is there anything that you say to companies that are utilizing that as a way to respond?
You want to jump in, Arcui? I definitely do too, but please.
Yeah, sure. Actually, I wanted to say something to the other conversation we were just having, but here's one thing I've said to a lot of companies. Do not look at AI as a way that, it's stealing your job, but rather it's enabling you to not be dependent on someone else. So I was working with this amazing, overall performing group and everything. And here's the thing. Every time they wanted to write an amazing story, they had to work with illustrators who would never show up, deadlines pushed back, and so many different challenges constantly occurring. And so, what AI can really enable for you as a business is that instead of you taking someone's job, it's helping you individually overcome limitations. And so, AI can always help you get closer to your impact. Now, you will always get pushback, not just for AI, we got pushbacks when people started using calculators and so on and so forth. There's always going to be a pushback. Remote workers still get pushback because they're working remotely instead of driving to the office and everything. And so, the one thing you need to realize is that as you're going about innovating, it needs to make sure that it is supporting you get closer to your vision, because there's general audience and then there's your core audience for whom your business exists. And the more closer you get to your vision also means that you're helping them overcome their limitations, break through their glass ceilings and get closer. So it is always important to be able to address this and to acknowledge this as well.
I love that. And before we run out of time, Hunter, I know you were responding in the chat, but love to see if you added anything else for Moses' question, which was when you're setting up evals, how do you turn the stuff people just know into something written like simple standards or checklists without making it too heavy for a company that cares about security and compliance? What are the first couple human checkpoints you'd put into place? When does it auto run versus when does a person need to review it? So if we could maybe tackle those two questions real quick, that would be great.
Totally. I'll work my way backwards, right? So the human check and when it's good to auto run, you got to set up all of that stuff in advance where the evals are, where that team knowledge is, where that industry specific knowledge is, whether you've done that from your own internal documents that you've given the AI and you've trained that on, or if you've done maybe research with one of the many wonderful AI research tools out there that looks at 150 plus sources in 2 minutes, is the new normal, which is bananas how quickly we take things for advantage, right? Like, that's just amazing. When you have all that stuff, you got to review it. So who are the domain experts in your company that can say, no, that's not right. Actually, that's close, but it's this. Those are the people that need to have final sign off in facts, data points, anything that is industry knowledge, claims, all of those things. Those points need the human check from your domain experts within your business. Now, depending how big your team is, maybe you have someone in marketing that's then the one that's saying the final, okay, I got approval from leadership or legal or whoever, and now we're going to post it. Well, those other teams may not know what the telltale signs of AI are, right? An M dash and maybe some jargon or whatever. That's where the expert of the marketing team is going to hopefully know those things and look out for that stuff. And you'll keep iterating and training. So now let's look at the pushback that maybe people on the internet, when you post something, will say, oh, that's AI and I'm boycotting them. Well, the best way to get ahead of that is transparency. I would say if you use AI in your business, that's going to be saying like, we use the internet. If we use, and you're like, great, big whoop, but it's, if you're doing it and you're trying to throw a curtain over it, if you're trying to keep it secret or gated, then people will call you on it. And that's no good, So it's not like you have to always put a disclaimer on the bottom, like, this post was brought to you by artificial intelligence, which helped co-write all this stuff. No. But being transparent about it, and the more you can invest in those human checkpoints, the less it's going to feel like AI wrote this and more like AI improved this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm seeing more and more companies kind of going back to what we were talking about before about having kind of a set rules for your company. I'm also seeing more and more companies saying, this is our AI statement that is on our site, just as we might have our mission statement, like saying this is, so to your point, Hunter, they're not necessarily putting in every post, but if you go back to that site and say, this is how we're using AI, here's an email address that you can email us if you have questions and you have concerns. But I think definitely being proactive, I think proactiveness is definitely a common thread of this and so many AI conversations we've been having. So just about out of time. So my last question, for both of you, is where can people find out more about your work, and where, if you're open to it, where can they connect with you? So Arcui, why don't you start us off there?
So a great thing about branding and my name is that I'm literally the only one in the world. So just go ahead, go on the internet, type Arcui Usoara. If you find someone else, send them my way, but otherwise you'll probably find me.
And I think in
But
all of your photos, you're wearing that black turtleneck. So you've got some
so this
great
one is
branding as
navy.
well.
Yeah, so this is navy. I thought it was black when I ordered it, and then it arrived today, and I was like, oh, well, I like it, so I might just keep
Yeah,
it.
it's great.
But yeah, so I'm just putting my LinkedIn here and my website. But yeah, if you are someone who is looking to bring in a consultant who is not just going to give you fluffy advice, but is going to work with you and give you that direction that you require to grow and scale, kind of like how I've worked with some of you who are here. I see some familiar names in the chat and everything. I would love to be able to stay in touch with you, and I'd love for you to reach out. So yeah, LinkedIn is the best way, but to be honest, like, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn anytime. I'm kind of active there, or email, but I don't give out my email to everybody. Yeah.
Perfect. And Hunter, what about you? I know we're putting some links in the chat there. Oh, your microphone is off. Oh, your microphone is still off.
Should get my shirt that says "You're on mute." Yes.
Yes.
LinkedIn is great. Shockingly, I'm also probably the only Hunter Lee Canning that will pop up when you Google me or AI me, which is wonderful. And even Hunter Canning is pretty legit. I think there's a young whippersnapper who's on a soccer team you might find when I've done some vanity searching on my own. So hope you're doing well, other Hunter. But I guess I'm the other Hunter to you, Nega World. And you can also go to plumwheel.com if you're interested, if you're part of a company that's looking to scale your branding and video first marketing approach with using all of this wonderful AI stuff in the back end. But first and foremost, it's going to be about the human values and the offerings that you want to connect to with your clients, with your communities, with a people first approach. So you can go to the website there. And I even dropped in my booking link there too. If you want to just hop on a call with me, that's totally cool.
Thank you both so much. Big thank you to Arcui and Hunter. And I'm sure this will not be the last time you're going to hear from either of them at a Power to Fly event. So check our website back soon. If you're joining us live, you will get this recording in your inbox in a little bit. And if you're watching the recording, well, hope you enjoyed it. Lots of jargon here to go through. Not jargon. I know Hunter hates jargon. But lots of initials that you might want to actually do a transcript and put it into AI and get some
just
more
because
info.
I am allergic to it doesn't mean I don't say it and witness it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
I
like
will
lactose
eat
intolerant, but you love ice cream. You know, it's fine.
You get me, Rob. See, you know me so well.
Yes. So thank you all. And I want a big thank you to everyone who is joining us live or watching this recording, because you took an hour out of your day to help yourself on your career and personal journey. So thank you all so much. We'll be back soon here at Power to Fly with more amazing events like this one. And until then, thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.